Wait a minute. Welcome back to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today we have a full house. And look at this for a lineup. We've got Kev Graham at the Old Park Heat. We've got Acsom Rabbani at the new Posh Paradise. And me and Quinny. And every time I see Quinny, I just think of that tremendous song, Come All Without, Come All Within. You've not seen nothing like the mighty
Does
Quinny.
your home have an RTS meter? If you've got storage heaters, you may.
Yeah, if you've got storage meters, absolutely. That's the free advertising that we're all about. Kev, what are you doing in the old Celtic Park, mate? What a memory that brings back.
I thought I would go full Celtic there.
That's
I really
old school,
did.
mate. That's
I just
old
really,
school.
I thought it would go. You see all these nice fancy wallpapers that you get for your iPhones and your, like your Androids and stuff like that, and your laptops and stuff like that. And I went, nah, I'm going old school. I mean, if I was the Celtic SLO, I would be campaigning to bring back an old guy who peed on your leg. That should be brought back to Celtic Park as a rite of passage.
Kev takes us back 35 years. Brilliant. Where did you stand back in those days, Kev? Where did you go?
Probably exactly where I'm at. I went to what was known as the Rangers End then because I could jump over a turnstile. Mm-hmm. Because the Rangers End was the last end to get the full turnstiles from top to bottom. So my dad always used to take me to the Rangers End and throw me over, so he didn't need to pay me in. And I used to continue going there. Then when eventually the last couple of years of the jungle, I was in the jungle, but right close to the disabled bit. Said there was a disabled bit at probably just where you can see at that corner flag. You used to actually stand there. When I eventually moved into the jungle, my first ever game in the jungle was we beat Rangers 2-0 the first week of the St Paddy Day massacre.
Oh yes. That was a cup game. That was a cup game, wasn't it?
Scottish Cup, aye. So we put them at the Scottish Cup, aye. That was my first ever game in the jungle.
Dovjek and Jerry Craney, I believe, were the goal scorers. Dovjek scored from about 40 yards.
Magic days. What a fortnight that was.
Acsom, you don't know what you were missing back in those days with the bevy and the macaroon bars and the Wrigley's chewing gum and all that came with it. And Kev, actually, some of you may have seen it. We are launching, Acsom is going to be launching a new range of merchandise. We've been running with the same range for a while. And there is one of the designs which is in homage to the Jungle Days, Kev. I think you might have seen it. So some of the old school might appreciate it. Acsom, brilliant to have you back, fella. I mean, how are you enjoying things since the last time you were on Acsom?
I better start by saying I'm still getting over that advertisement that came on at the start.
I have no idea what it is.
There are other heaters available. Just to
wait a
put
minute.
it out
Was
there.
it you? Was it yours?
It was me. I had the stream on in the laptop in the background. So
Acom's so big. He's so big these days. He's got his own sponsor. He just, wherever he appears, he's got his own sponsor. The last time Quinny and I were at Barazat and Design, we looked up at this screen. It was like the size of the wall, and there's Acsom just sitting there, nonchalantly talking about, hey, but Larson, we're like, this guy gets everywhere. There he is. But it's great to have you back, mate. Absolutely tremendous.
No, it's been a few weeks. It was like an ultra marathon for the fans as well, isn't it? Like when Celtic were playing every couple of days and Champions League games, cup games. So I've just had a lot going on the last couple of weeks with house renovations and wedding prep. Fasting during Ramadan as well, so took its toll. So just had a wee reset, and good to go again. So glad to be back on with a full house today.
Brilliant. It's great to see you're looking fine. And Quinny, yourself, always on it. What do you think about this one game a week caper? I mean, these football players get paid a lot of money. They should be playing more than once a week, no?
Aye, well, it's a nice reprieve at this part of the year, isn't it? I think Acsom said it there. It's an ultra marathon for us all, isn't it? Like, it's also good fun just going game to game, but it does catch up with you quite quickly. I mean, you do get that wee, coming into the weekend was lovely because there was no it's just a little bit different in that sense. But yeah, no, I get it. Work them hard, make them earn their money. But I think on the pitch this year, it's hard to say that they haven't.
That's right.
I would rather have a midweek game because that means we're still in Europe.
Well, there's that, Kev, there's that. But I just think once you get to the tickly bit of the season, and Brendan Rodgers has said we come alive, I'm pretty chuffed with the European endeavours this year. I'm pretty happy. I'd obviously love to still be in there. And now we can absolutely ultra focus on this treble. And when you think about it, Kev, I mean, listen, I often will give my view after a game. Might look at one of the goals. I'm delighted Idah scored. I know all the chat's going to be about Maeda today. And I put it out there. And the kind of feedback I was getting, Kev, mainly for Hibs fans, Hearts fans, there was Falkirk fans chipping in. Look at you guys, man. You know, you're a checkbook club and you should be winning games like this and all the rest of it. And the point that is often lost on them is that any money Celtic spends, Kev, is our money that's been earned. I mean, actually, look at the difference between where you're sitting there compared to where Acom's sitting there. Now, Acom, I think, might be in the posh seats. I'm not sure. He might actually be in the main stand, whereas there's you and that's the traditional Celtic end you're in there, isn't it, Kev?
No, it's the Rangers end.
You're in the Rangers end, right?
In the Rangers
I remember I bumped into Mike Galloway in the Rangers end one day. He was wearing a Diodora bubble jacket and he was injured and he had paid in at the gate to come into the game, Mikey. And he would stand there. And it was at that time where he was getting capped for Scotland and all that, Kev, you know? And just standing there with his wee ginger moustache. And I went up and got my programme signed. I think we were playing Airdrie. And by the time I got down to my dad, because you used to just pick one of the green barriers, didn't you? And it became a bit, Joe. You stood behind the same barrier every single week. And by the time I looked back up at Mikey Galloway, there was a queue of kids trying to get things signed, and my dad was like, "He will hate you." I brought it up to Mikey, and he still recalled it, and he also still recalled the Diodora jacket. So when you're looking at the kind of feedback you get, Kev, we're not entitled to win anything. Every single thing that we win has been earned. But it's almost as if there's a whole lot, any team outside of Celtic grudges any success that Celtic has, Kev. I got another taste of this over the weekend. What is that? Can they not go and just be better themselves, get their own backyard in order and start to make money and run a business properly and build a football team and build their support? That's what Celtic had to do.
It's a football fan's default. You always look for something else to blame. Another reason why you didn't win. Another reason why your football team wasn't good enough to win on the park. Wait, Hibs have written off £7 million last week. I think that's a bigger loss than what we've had over the last few seasons. As you say, we earn what we bring in. Yes, it's skewed, but that's because we're successful. And that's it, basically. And it will continue being that way no matter what actually happens in Scottish football, because if you actually have a look at it, probably when we're sitting here at this point next year, if St Johnstone survive, there's probably going to be 6 clubs in the Premier League that are owned or their major shareholders going to be Americans. So there is going to be more clubs in Scotland going into debt, and we won't be one of them. Whether that's an argument or not, whether we should be looking at doing up the main stand, it's quite clear that the club are not interested, because I think they know the figures involved and they know that it's going to actually cost hundreds of money to actually quote wee Patrick. And they're not willing to spend that, and that's something we can come back into. Yes, if you have a look at our squad and the money that we spend on the squad, then we should be winning these games. It's the same all over Europe. You've got big teams, you've got small teams. But what I found yesterday, and I mean, the Hibs fans were fantastic yesterday. I'm standing in the Rangers, and I remember when they used to bring 18,000. And Hearts in the centenary season also filled the Rangers end with 18,000 when it looked like they were going to go on and have a challenge for the league title as well. I mean, they enjoyed themselves yesterday, but at not one point did it look like they were going to win the game.
No.
They were there for a day out. They celebrated the fact that their team has had their best run since they denounced that they were an Irish-founded club, I think in 1949. So that was just my wee dig there, because they'll always say...
The fans don't like to hear that, though, Kev. It was certain individuals at the football club. Was it your man Swan, wasn't it? That tried to do that. Yeah.
Anyway, they came there and like they enjoyed their day out. I must admit though, in the stand, we've got so much to lose. We had really, really so much that we lose that game. Folk might actually then say, it's been a poor season for you. Some of their own support might say it's a poor season for us, But the pressure that was on us, there was no pressure on Hibs yesterday, no pressure on the Hibs players. All the pressure was on the Celtic players, and to a man, they absolutely stepped up and absolutely dominated that game and made it look easy. Even though the scoreline doesn't suggest that, the game was far more comfortable than the scoreline actually suggests. That's credit to the players. So yes, we have got more money than anybody else, but we've got a mentality which means us winning is not a surprise anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Kevin's point there, Acsom, I agree with that. And so far as it was 2-0 for me going on 4 or 5. Acsom looks like he's at a sunny Celtic Park now. Look at that. Just the way the lights.
Nailed it.
Brilliant. No, but I agreed with that. I know that after the game, there was some kind of disappointment coming through in our comments in the post-match. And even some of the contributors weren't too chuffed with the performance. I just felt we were comfortable. We were in cruise control. We completely dominated the game. And I think that we could have gone up in extra gear had Hibs come out and had a go at us. Well, what was your analysis of the match, Acsom?
Yeah, firstly, just to touch on what Kev was saying about the fans, the Hibs fans, I thought it really added to the sense of occasion. You know, it felt like a big game. I thought the amount of fans that they brought and the fact that they were singing loud brought the best out of the Celtic support as well. I thought it was kind of one of the best atmospheres in a while at the stadium, and it'd be great to see that more often. I think it would just make our game so much more appealing. Like, so my nephew, who obviously goes to all the games as well, he was really up for it yesterday and enjoying, the fact that they had a big crowd and, you celebrated both goals really passionately, more than you would in a. Obviously, the fact it's a cup game and there's more jeopardy on it because the league's pretty much done. But just having that away support, I really think adds to it. It'd be great to see. Well, I say great. I was going to mention Hearts bringing a big support like that. Maybe not because of the stuff that they'd sing and all that nonsense, but still, it's what makes the theatre and these kind of games enjoyable. So I would love to see something. Obviously, these fans, they turned up. Hibs are on a great run. That's why they brought so many. But it would be great to see larger away supports regularly at Celtic Park. Obviously, we're going to see a larger away support next week at the Derby match. And I think that'll add to the occasion as well. So, yeah, I thought it just had the sense of a big game yesterday. The sun was out for the first time in months. You could go to Celtic Park without jackets and layers on. And the game started really well. I thought Celtic started with a great energy, good pace to the game. And then as the game went on, I thought, so I'm probably one of those at the end of the game that thought the quality of the match didn't kind of live up to the hype. Everyone, and I think that's partly because we controlled it and we were so measured in our performance. It wasn't a pure gung-ho, absolutely battering them. So I think everyone maybe thought, similar to when we drew with Aberdeen 2-2 earlier in the season, we then played them in the cup and absolutely smashed them. I think because that Hibs beat us a couple of weeks ago, maybe there was an expectation among some fans that we're going to go out and absolutely smash them. But I think what we did was absolutely nullify any threat they had. Honestly, at no point, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't ever feel Hibs were going to score. I thought they were toothless. I thought our defence was very good. Even going into the last 10-15 minutes, I felt fairly comfortable. And it was my dad, he sat in a different seat yesterday. He came into the car after and he goes, "That's the most nervous he's felt for a while." And I was like, I just didn't feel that. I thought there was no way we were not winning that game. But I guess the fact it was a cup tie and there was only 1-0 for a while maybe added to it. I thought that overall, it was a professional job. I don't think we were brilliant. I think we were as good as we needed to be. But I think that was a measured performance rather than spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was that cruise control, Quinny. And I think that what you're now seeing is a lineup that I certainly believe is our strongest 11. And we're going to be talking about some of the performers. And there's some good points coming through about that as well. I'm going to start off with the captain and the fact that it seems.
Can I say something about Hibs quickly, just before you take us there, if that's all right? Because I was at the game as well, and it was great to see all the Hibs fans in attendance, and I was right up for it as well. I did think this was a domestic game that should have had. I think I was saying it last week on here, but it's maybe one of the most high pressure domestic games we've actually had this season, because it could take the treble off the table. Hibs had just beat us and whatever. And number one, right? I've never been to Easter Road. Hibs have never brought that big away crowd to Parkhead either. I had no idea that they literally sing all of our songs. They sing "Hail Hail." They sing everything. There's actually a point in the second half when might have still been 1-0, but they started singing. Oh, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't "Hail Hail," but it was another Celtic song. and then the rest of the stadium kind of stole it off them.
Yeah.
You know, that was a good laugh. That was good to see. But see with the whole like not letting us win stuff and throwing that chick, like, I had to go pull it up and start mentioning it. We're in 17th place again, top 20 again, top 30 as always, kind of for merchandise sales across Europe, and it's clocking in at like 35 million euros is like the revenue, so that's not profit, but that's the spreadsheet or whatever, but huge volume. And see when you see 7,000 Hibs fans at Celtic Park, right? They don't always have that allocation, but let's have it right. Celtic tickets to go at home to Parkhead, to get a season ticket at Parkhead, is more expensive than Easter Road. To go away to Celtic have gotten a fantastic away support to go away to games all the time up and down the country. The expense for those people to go to away games is no different to a Hibs fan or an Aberdeen fan or whatever. And really, this, just to call a spade, those Hibs fans, I'm going to say 5,000-6,000 of them are glory hunters. They would not have been at that game if it was a league match. They would not have been at that game if there was not a sniff of winning it because they beat us last week. These teams never send fans. These fans never go to games, home or away, because they think they're going to get beat and they don't turn up, you know. Whereas if they wanted to back their club, they actually wanted to see their club move on, they would show up anyway, give themselves an iconic away support. Like, we don't care, we go anywhere kind of style and we do whatever. It's kind of in the back of my head, this stuff as well, because I've seen a little clip from one of my friends. He's called Fiago. He's a German guy. He goes to like different matches and whatever. And they were talking about how the kind of snobbery you get with this kind of thing, but it's in England. And they're like, oh, we can't do the kind of fan display stuff that you see in Europe because here it's illegal and this and that and the other thing. And their kind of counter argument to that was precisely like Celtic. Like, nothing that Celtic do, the fans, the club orchestrates for us or sets up or lines up. The fans paint the signs themselves. They design it themselves. They do all of this. If you really supported your club, if you really wanted your club to do these things as a fan base, you know, who's spending money they don't have? Everyone lives in Scotland. Everyone works the same jobs. It's not like Celtic fans are richer than Hibs fans or anything like that. The club might be, but that's because there's hundreds of thousands more fans across the world, yada, yada, whatever. But I've kind of ran into a wee bit of a rabbit hole, but I think I've said what I wanted to say.
I'm glad you did.
What I will say, Quinny, is it will be far cheaper over a season to watch Hibs away from home than Celtic because the different prices in the ticket. Yeah. We get charged a couple of quid here and there more.
Celtic tax, absolutely.
Yes, we get the Celtic tax, and if Hibs were taking 3,000-4,000 to places like Love Street and places like that, they would get the tax as well. But we get it constantly.
Kev, if you're going to continue with that backdrop, you need to invest in some Bovril, a pie, macaroon bars, Wrigley's chewing gum, the whole thing. Didn't people go around selling rolls?
Spam rolls.
Aye,
in a box. An old guy would have made them. Homemade spam rolls.
Probably not even employed by Celtic. Just went in and sell.
I was just going to add to the discussion about, like, you know, what you were saying earlier about people saying, no, it must get boring supporting Celtic winning all the time as well and all that, you know, that we're entitled. But see, even like yesterday, and I've seen a lot of people say after that, a lot of Celtic fans were quite disappointed with Hibs in terms of how they performed and played. We actually welcome a challenge. I've been enjoying the fact that Hibs have been on a long unbeaten run. I wanted to see, like, let's see how good they are, which would then bring the best out of us. And that goes for all of, well, not all of Scottish football, majority of Scottish football. I want to see these other teams get better. I want to see Celtic fans want to see a competitive league that's going to then bring out the best in us, and that's why there was such a hype and excitement about yesterday, because all the chat's been about Hibs' run and that, you know, it's a cup game, it's going to be a classic. So when they then put in that kind of performance, it was almost disappointing, you know, that, you know, is that the best that you've got? But obviously credit to Celtic as well that we totally nullified them. But yeah, it just kind of puts away any arguments that we just enjoy the rest of the league not being up to it and having an easy. No, we want a challenge. We want to see these teams get better. Like we spoke about it all season. Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, Dundee United, that top six. I think it's not anymore, but it was last week. They're the biggest clubs in Scotland, and you want them all to be thriving and improving and getting better in Europe, and that will just raise the whole profile and standard of Scottish football.
I'm 100% agree with that. And I think we've been speaking about this for day one, Kev. We've been talking about these teams who actually are punching way below their weight. I mean, Dundee United are just back in the league. Hibs, I expect Hibs to be pushing for third. It's about time they were pushing for third. Were they not sitting bottom of the table in December? I think, you know what I mean, which is incredible, and it's absurd. And Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, Dundee United, and of course Rangers should all be doing a lot better than they are. The word glory hunter was the one that was levied against me, Quinny. So it's interesting that you've used that. But I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm just going to have to go over here and grab a prop. I was talking to a pal of mine who was going on about the song, right? The song that has been getting all the plaudits and the credit recently. It's a song written by the Proclaimers. Now, this was gifted to me by mad Celtic fan Gary John Kane, who was a writer of The Glory and the Dream, and he is the bass player of the Proclaimers. And he gave me that, which isn't it quite on the wall? See that there? That song there, this isn't a Hibs tea-towel by it's a Proclaimers one. That song there has been called the best football anthem and European world football, right? In any galaxy. And I just felt there was a tremendous opportunity at the weekend. Quinny's laughing here. There was a tremendous opportunity, and it was brought to my attention by my pal Hugh for Celtic to sing Walk On and just actually put them back in the box. Why did we not do that? Why didn't the entire Celtic support? I mean, we shouldn't need permission for the club, or we only do that for the European game, guys, you know. We should have just shown them live on Premier Sports that we've got an anthem as well. And I think it's bigger and better than Sunshine on Leith. There you go. I'm throwing that grenade in. There you are. Jungle Lion, you're in and you're on the YouTube. Is Maeda in the Larson zone? He plays, he scores. You know that people are going to be spitting out their tea and everything, Jungle Lion, because you dared to put Larson's name in the same quote or comment as another Celtic player. What I would say, Kev, he's becoming a player that is in the irreplaceable bracket. I cannot think of a player we could bring in that would give us what Maeda gives us, Kev. That's certainly one thing I would say about him.
He's having a breakout season for us, maybe. Where guys have this season where we just rely on them. They actually do make us tick. And it was interesting to hear Idah say that after the game as well. Even the players feel that we would be lost without him. Brendan Rodgers says it as well. He says his press and that he's still going. Physicality is absolutely immense. He's improved technically, I think, but look, we've had other main men, and it's just the fact that this season for me he's just stepped up to be the main man. Mm-hmm. He's just having that breakout season that we're always going to remember, and hopefully he does continue it. But what's it, 27 goals this season, scored 13 goals in 13 games in a row. Even yesterday, there was a wee slight niggle yesterday with him and that Rocky Bashiri.
Yeah.
And the fact that Bashiri completely lost him for the goal, completely didn't realise where he was, and the fact that he slid in front of the Hibs fans and gave them a wee bit of it as well because they were singing the Rocky Bashiri song. I'm going like that. You know more than you're letting on. Even in the interviews, like the one-liners and stuff like that, I think the players know that he's at it. That he's a wee bit of a wind-up merchant. I think he's got a wee bit of character here. He's a wee bit of a wind-up merchant. When he tried to grab the microphone yesterday as well, when he was doing the post-match interview, and he just went, scored, blah, blah, blah. And Big Adam's laughing as if they go, he can say so much more, but he's just not got to do it. Because he's just got that sort of wee personality about him. I love him. I mean, he's 27. Hopefully he's quite settled in Scotland. Hopefully we've got him for at least another couple of years in him. And as a centre forward, or even though Rodgers wouldn't admit that he was a centre forward, Rodgers just kept on admitting he was a goal scorer. The guy's pivotal for us for now to the end of the season, really, really is. And I'm just enjoying him. I'm really enjoying him. I'm not having the Larson comparison. I'm just enjoying where he is.
I guess we could ask if he was better bald or with hair. There was the whole Larson argument about that as well. But yeah, you know what? There's a wee bit about Maeda, Quinny. A wee bit there's a mischievous element to Maeda's play, and we've seen him getting a couple of red cards where it's not kind of worked out for him. But yesterday, I noticed he was giving a wee bit of needle to the ref, for example, which is something I don't think we saw a lot of previously.
I caught that as well. I've never seen him bite back at a ref like that yesterday. And Do you know, I'm glad this conversation kind of came up, because I've been saying for the last couple of years, like, Daizen is probably the most shaded on player by refs in the league, but nobody ever talks about it because he literally just ignores that they exist. He'll just get up and walk away from it, never complains, never like even bites back at a player or anything. But he gets fouled so often. He gets like just like stupid stuff, people push him down to the ground and then or whatever, it doesn't matter. But when he's been centre forward in that game against Hibs, it was still happening. But because he's right in the middle of it, and it's a bit more of an influential kind of position of the pitch, right towards goal and whatever, it's maybe a bit cleaner in focus. And you seen that kind of thing with him and Rocky yesterday, where there was like, he should have won us about 3 or 4 fouls in that match that just didn't get given. Referee aside, I think he just always gets a harsh treatment in Scotland. They just never gave him anything. When he was bald, especially, they never gave him anything. I was always a bit worried the samurai thing was maybe going against him with the refs in that sense. But that was like seeing him kind of give that little bite back to the ref after that one. I forget exactly how it shook out, because I was at the game, but it was like right down the centre of the pitch.
Yeah.
Back towards like off the offside line kind of thing. It was maybe a 1-on-1. It really caught my eye. And I think like Daizen, like Kev said, it'd be great there in terms of that breakout season, but there is like a moment with players when they're at clubs in their career where they like everything just clicks into gear. And for one reason or another, it's maybe like a lot of him as well. His personal life is, because the main thing he's always had criticism around is his technique, is his execution. No one's, the thing I've always said about him is he's more of a wide forward than a winger. If you're waiting for a winger, Daizen's not really going to do too much in that sense, in terms of judgment and whatever. But the technique has just been polished up this year. There's less of those ones. I had my live chat the other day saying that there's less balls going into Rosie and whatever. Now they're ducking less when they're at matches and stuff. And it's just, everything's just slowly but surely just kind of popped into place for him. And I think, I honestly, I think a huge part of it is the length of time he's been here. And I think he understands that as well, that because like I was familiar with Daizen a little bit before him coming to Celtic. He did have a move to Europe before. He did go to Portugal. It wasn't a great team, but it didn't work out for him. He went back to Japan. No one else was interested. So he's one of these guys that, again, I think we see it at Celtic, like mature players really get it, really click. Larsson, the thing about Larsson is he was so mature for his age, like in that sense of like he knew what he had here and he knew that like everything he had, so, and yeah, it just feels like he's like hit that kind of, it's like Kev in his full Celtic dad mode today, going back to the jungle. Like it's that final form completion, where it's like all the things have come into place and he's at the best version of himself now, it feels like, finally.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with that as well, Asim, we get worried when that happens. You're absolutely loving the fact that he's hit that sweet spot. Everything that seems to have just clicked into place for Daizen Maeda. Kyogo leaving has become almost a blessing because it's allowed him to move into that kind of central position. But as Celtic fans, we start getting a bit concerned at that because we know what happens.
Yeah, well, it could be famous last words, but I don't have that concern because I just think he seems so content. He's got a young family. He seems pretty settled and happy. And there just hasn't, over the course of the last couple of years, been any links of him going anywhere. Now, like you say, whether that's now going to change because of how on form he is. I seen Neil Lennon was glowing in praise and was bringing that to Brendan yesterday and saying what does he attribute it to, because it just seems he's so much more composed. Lennon used to have a term that he used about, was it a curly toe, that he described Amido Baldi as having a few years back. And it was almost like that with Daizen in his early spell, where he would do so much right, but then just that finish, that final product, he'd sky things out of the pitch, and he just seems so much more assured and composed. There was one yesterday where he took the ball down brilliantly in the first half, and then it was the old Daizen where he skied it over. But it's a measure of him that he dusted himself down and managed to still score yesterday, and he could have had another in the second half when he rounded the keeper, one that he actually missed from close in as well. But you just wonder if we've been missing a trick, not playing him as centre forward for all this time, because on the current form he's in, he's equally as good as Pete Kyogo potentially. When he went up front, Kyogo obviously was brilliant for those first couple of seasons, but you just have to really give it to Daizen in terms of his consistency. How many goals is that he's on now? He's definitely going to, so he's definitely going to eclipse 30 goals. I think you spoke about it last week in one of the shows, that there's not many that have done that in the last wee while. So yeah, you're just enjoying watching him. Wherever you put him, he's going to be consistently effective now. And I agree with the guys. He's definitely got that kind of devilment in him, where he's just likes kind of being that cheeky chappy, but he doesn't give too much away when he's when he's on media duties.
No, he does not. And talking to media, obviously Bruni was the other guy. Bruni's hair's grown in
Oh,
just
brilliant, isn't it?
It's incredible. It's almost as incredible as Maeda's growth as well. But there's a few other guys I want to talk about. Obviously, with one eye on the Rangers game this weekend. And I'm going to flip it from your man Daizen to Jeffrey Schlupp. I'm going to start with yourself, Kev, because you were talking about being in the jungle for a game in which your left back, Darius Dufjek, scores an incredible strike. And now we've got a left back in Jeffrey Schlupp, who seems to be, Celtic fans are warming to him. And Greg Taylor, the situation with Greg Taylor is that he's basically just been dropped. And I can't hear anybody complaining, because for me, Schlupp is an upgrade. I mean, I know that a lot of people don't like that when you're talking about Celtic players saying that they're an upgrade or they're out the door or whatever. But for me, Schlupp is a player that I would be looking to bring to the football club permanently. I don't know if a deal can be done. And I don't even see it as a backup to KT, because, as I've said before, he can play in so many different positions that he would be playing games in any case, Kev. But I was so impressed with him yesterday as well. He gets all over the park. He's so athletic, isn't he?
He is so athletic, and it's quite weird, that it's no weird, but usually Rodgers, even when we had other left back options and Valle and Taylor, he would swap them round about the 60-70 minute mark, and that hasn't been happening since Schlupp's got into the side, which is really, really interesting. And if you would be cynical, it's probably because Greg Taylor's maybe signed a pre-contract with somebody. It's just hasn't been publicised yet. But he is a Premier League fullback, a Premier League physical size specimen, like athleticism, it's there. He will have offers in the summer, and it's just whether we can pay him. It depends what he wants. Does he want the money? Then he'll get it in a bottom half of English Premier League team, or does he want to come up here and enjoy the latter years of his career? And if he's talking to guys like Schmeichel, Edouard, even Joe Hart, they might tell him, look, come up here and you're going to really enjoy it. I think he's got a lot more to offer than a backup to Kieran Tierney. I think he has. I think he can actually play like you, Paul, he can play in a number of positions. Midfield. I want us to actually at least make an offer for him and see where it goes. It might not be his cup of tea. It depends where his head's at. It really does. But let's not argue about it. We want him to actually stay, but it depends where his head is at, where his career, and where we've got gaps in the budget, the wage budget as well. Whether he wants to come up here and take a wage cut, because he will need to take a wage cut to come up here. Whether it's all down to money, it's up to him, because he is going to get offers with his wee cameo up here. I want him to stay. I really do want him to stay, because the big man looks like he's loving it. The big man looks like he's gone, I should have came here earlier, And it looks like he likes the mentality that you need to win every week.
Yeah.
And some guys come up for the English Premier League and just can't handle that.
Schmeichel was talking about that last week, guys. Did you see that, Acsom? Did you see the overlap? I know.
Yeah, I've seen it. It was good to see him on it. Obviously, it was the same when Martin O'Neill was on, though. You wish there was a bit more of the Celtic chat, but I guess from their point of view, it was predominantly about his time in England. But I thought he was a great listen. And I agree with Kev. I think in terms of Schlupp, I think he'll be really enjoying his time here. And for these guys who he wasn't playing much at all at Palace. It's coming to a club like Celtic where the demands are so high, and that's what Schmeichel was talking about as well, wasn't it? See that expectation you have to win every single week. It's such a rare thing, because playing for clubs like Leicester, Palace, the majority of the clubs in England, you're not going to have that. And some people just have that mentality where as soon as they're in that kind of environment, they don't want to lose that. So I think I would love to keep him. And similar to Kev again, I don't think it'll just be like as a backup to KT. I think they can, again, if we're hopefully in the Champions League, It's going to be a lot of games for a lot of players, and I think he's more than good enough to just be a backup. But yeah, I've really enjoyed watching him. I think he was one of the shining lights yesterday as well. Just so strong, powerful. He's got a good cross on him, got a good dig on him. You know, all the attributes that all that. He was very unlucky in the second half not to score. All the attributes that we've been crying out for quite a while, and I think he'll continue to improve as well. Just looks like a proper physical athlete, and that's where Celtic need to be shopping at, that kind of profile of player now.
Yeah, you know, when you look at this season, Schmeichel, Schlupp, Trusty, Engels, Idah, we have bought that physicality that I think was lacking in the side. If he does start against Rangers, Quinny, it's the first time under Brendan Rodgers that Greg Taylor doesn't start against Rangers. So, you know, he started every single game, cup games, league games since Brendan came back. But I think it's a stick-on that Schlupp starts against Rangers next week. He's been fantastic since he's come in.
Yeah, I think it's a stick-on for a number. Everything Acsom said, and it's kind of gone before as well. I totally agree with. Like, you just see that kind of base level from him that he brings in terms of physicality, and I think like if anyone at the club is you can't offer him a contract until you see him against Rangers. You know, really, is what it kind of comes down to. You know, there's no way in a month of Sundays that you're not going to play him, and then think about signing him. You know, it's just the league is beyond a formality. You know, I think we've been quite nice across Celtic fan media. But the league's been over since like October or something, really. Let's call a spade a spade. And this game is just more about, for us, it's about party time. It's about having fun with the end of the season. It's about really flexing our muscles, showing how far the teams came on this year, what the gap still is, and everything else. For them, it means, you know, a totally different thing. But for Jeffrey Schlupp specifically, like, there's nothing really to be lost by playing him in this game. You know, like, I always earmarked this game for myself for Alex Valley, actually, because I thought if we were going to maybe try and get that move done for him, this would have been a game you would have, you know, a young guy on loan. It's a bit of a different situation to like the veteran that's out of contract in the summer. But this game is the perfect audition for someone who's in and around the squad, and do we push the button on him? You know, so I don't think there's any way he doesn't play.
I think that's funny. I'm going to disagree with you. I saw him playing against Bayern Munich, so I can actually offer him a contract. I mean, and Bayern Munich are far better than Barry's back past Galacticals, ain't they? So that's
that's fair, right? That's fair, right? But he's not good. But I think like it's the same with Daizen Maeda last year. Like, the number one thing is you have to be like a cut above domestically, and in these games you can't buckle. And we've seen players that just can't get it going in these games for both sides over the years. So I'm with you. Like, he's definitely, that's quite fair. He's had like a pretty strong audition already. Granted, I'm with you on that. Probably undersold that a bit, but I do think like this is the, you know, because imagine as a shocker, like the opinion will change on a dime, you know, absolutely quickly. So yeah, I just don't see him not playing this one.
I get that. I think there is an acid test. There definitely is when it comes to can you take the heat of a Glasgow Derby. I think that's part of it. And the fact that he's come through with flying colours when it comes to the Champions League stuff. And there's people in the comment section talking about his wages. Well, you know, when his contract's done, he's on £0 a week. And who's going to offer him 60 grand a week? Unless he goes to one of these leagues where it's not about winning trophies, it's about money. He's not going to get offered 60 grand a week down there at 32, I wouldn't have thought. So there's got to be a come and go. There's got to be a compromise at that stage of his career, I think. But I just love the fact that, you know, Brendan got the Rolodex out and just started signing guys like him and Kasper Schmeichel and all this. Monty's loving your contribution. He's just singing. Quinny. That's
The chat's been in good form today.
It's on fire. It's hard to keep up at times. Can I just let everybody know? I try and bring up as many comments as possible. But see, after a live show that's pretty busy, and we've got like 1,500 live on at the minute, there's 1,000 comments. There's 1,000 comments in 60 minutes coming through. So it is hard, and I try and pick up ones. Ian Roy, I'm bringing this up because he preferred Wrigley's over Juicy Fruit. Wasn't Juicy Fruit one of the variants of Wrigley's? I'm sure. Was it not made by Wrigley's? I thought it might have been. Can you still get it? Because what a chewing gum that was. And we've also got Patrick Docherty. I was in the jungle in all of the 1967 European games. I love that experience. There's a book on that bookshelf called Jungle Tales, and it was all about fans' experiences of the jungle, good, bad, and indifferent. I love the fact that you're with us today, Patrick, talking about that and sharing that. Paul, You saw Martin O'Neill last night. Anybody that's seen him anywhere will agree that he's fantastic. He's absolutely unbelievable on that live stage, and he will be joining us on the 27th of March, which is when? 3 weeks? About 3 weeks' time. There's only 14 tickets available. It will sell out, I can guarantee that, and with good reason. He is fantastic. Absolutely agree with that. And we've also got Paul coming in, giving you big kudos for your background as well, Kev. I wanted to talk about Adam Idah. Adam Idah, he's one of the guys that I've just taken a shine to. I like him. I don't like when he gets criticised, guys. I take it personally. And he's came on at the weekend and scored another goal, talking afterwards about the confidence that gives him when he scores, etc. But Kev, he is definitely second string between now and the end of the season. However, he can come on and do that, and he's going to do it in big games. We know that he can do it in big games. There's been a lot of scrutiny around Adam Idah this season. Is it partly due to a fan's favourite leaving, partly due to the price tag involved? I think over the piece, when you look at what he's done, I'm pretty happy with what Adam Idah has contributed.
I'm very happy. I think the price tags, all of the above, when folk are judging Adam Idah, we lost Kyogo, we didn't replace him, and folk were really, really worried. Big Adam seems to be a guy that plays in spells, plays in bursts. He'll score goals in bursts, and I mean, he was only on the park 8 or 9 minutes yesterday, and he managed to get the goal that sort of settled us down. If you want to look at it that way, made the scoreline look comfortable. He scores goals in bursts. He seems a big confidence type of guy, and that seems to be a problem with folk who didn't want to give guys like any sort of leeway whatsoever. Yes, strikers want to score goals, and the big fella is going to have bad games. I have a look at the bad games that he's actually had, and there's been a lot of the times he's had a bad game. The team have had a honker as well, and he's ended up going off as well. I don't think.
Sorry, Kev, a honker. I was just checking yesterday. There are people in Venezuela watching the show right now. Can you explain what is a honker?
The team's been terrible.
Yeah,
they've been honking. They've been absolutely honking. Look, I'm still coming back to the fact that he had an unprofessional pre-season, to why his form's up and down. And it must be quite difficult for him as well. I mean, you saw when he became the main striker that he started scoring goals, and the pressure seemed to tell him he's hot and cold, and that's what he needs to actually. He needs to be more consistent. Yeah. But I think folk are always just going to look at it. Folk just think we got robbed with Norwich with the transfer fee. The transfer fee is not his fault. You look at the amount of goals that he scored for us, the amount of big goals that he's actually scored for us, and it doesn't matter what I think sitting here in the TARDIS in 1988, even though I think the picture's for 1992. Rodgers likes him, and Rodgers is going to play him, and that's it, bottom line. We can shout about it all we want. I still think we will sign a striker in the summer. I think that's what Rodgers virtually admitted that yesterday. I think we'll sign another striker in the summer. But I'm very, very pleased with Big Idah's contribution. How many goals was it in the Champions League? 4 or 5?
Bratislava, 2 against Villa. I don't know if you're going to give
me
the
young boys. Oh, well, that wasn't his goal, was it? The young boys one.
3 plus the young boys.
A Celtic striker scored 3 goals in the Champions League. I don't think we can argue with that.
No, I agree with you, Kev. I agree. And that's his first campaign at that level. You know, when any Celtic player comes in and you ask him, can they cut it? And Quinny's already says, can they pass the acid test of a derby? Can they cut it at the Champions League? Adam Idah's done both of these things. Yeah, he's been inconsistent this season, right? But I tend to agree with Kev. He didn't have the perfect preparation. You know, he started off the season as a Norwich player. He was missing flights to pre-season games to force the move, you know, and he got fined for that. So he was unsettled in the pre-season. He's quite young. It's not like he's 28, 29-year-old hitting his peak. There's development there. And the more he works with Brendan Rodgers, the better he's going to get. But I also agree with Kev in the respect that Brendan alluded to that yesterday. He took the opportunity as he does. His timing is absolutely brilliant. You know, we're flying. We've just got into the semis. We're going for another treble. We're going to beat Rangers at the weekend, hopefully. And he just throws it in there, a wee grenade. I still want another striker in the summer. I love the way that he does that. But that's not to take away from what Idah has achieved this season. I do think that we need somebody to challenge for that jersey. And obviously Maeda, we've already spoken about him. How happy are you with the big fella, and how delighted were you that he came on and scored another goal yesterday?
Yeah, and he looked happier yesterday. He looked cheerier. He looked happier in his after-match interview as well. I think you're right. He's a scorer of big goals, like we've said, derby matches, Champions League matches. That's your measure. When you're judging a striker or any player, if they can perform in these games, you've got someone worth keeping on to, and that's an important part of the squad. But the key word is consistency, and I think that's the third measure, and that's where he's maybe just. Whereas when he came last season, he was consistent, I think, for pretty much that whole second half of the season, and that's why we were all excited to get him back. What he's just not had this season is that run of games where he's like a player of the month contender because he's banged in 5-6 goals. He's won you domestic games. He's contributed in the cups and whatnot. He's not been able to follow on from like that Villa Park double. He then kind of went off the boil again in a couple of games. He just needs a solid run of it. And as you say, maybe that is a couple of factors. The age thing, his lack of pre-season. He was never really seen as the main man when Kyogo was here. So that's all changed. But now he's obviously got the battle of Daizen Maeda, being so good. So he's got that to kind of contend with. But that's a test of his mentality and his character, and that's what we want to see. I'm really hoping he can push on for the next remainder of this season and just show Rodgers that, yeah, we need another striker regardless, but I'm going to be one of your main men. Whereas, there have been games where, as Kev said, a lot of the time when the team have been poor, that's also when Idah's been poor. There's not been much service. We've been slow, pedestrian in our build-up, so he's not really got involved. It's not like there's been games where we've played really well and he's been the weak link, or that we've not, he's missed a barrel of chances. So I've got hope for him still, and I think his numbers are still pretty good this season, probably given how many minutes he's had. And hopefully that he'll kick on again. I thought it was a nice goal yesterday, well taken. He's a good finisher. You've seen that. I think his finishing is one of his kind of strongest points that we've seen. It's not often you see him one-on-one and you don't feel he's going to score, or he gets a cutback like yesterday. He tucks them away nicely. It's just maybe some games where his touch and his build-up play could be a wee bit tighter, and that's where I'm sure Rodgers will be working on that with him. So another striker's needed, but if Idah can really kick on for the last part of this season, it'll just make Rodgers, feel that he's going to be a key contributor again next season.
Yeah, definitely. We've got Plunge McNugget. Why does the show only last an hour? Is it a YouTube thing? We've actually done a 12-hour marathon podcast one time, Plunge. So no, it's nothing to do with the YouTube restricting it. We have always done it for an hour, but that's going to change. We're going to actually provide you with more content on the YouTube channel. So loads and loads of big plans coming your way. Also with the blog, which is now up and running and being managed by Liam. Brilliant blogging on that as well. The link is underneath the video. As of the end of the season, Tommy55 says Schlupp has no deal and won't be offered the same kind of contract again. So maybe we might look attractive to him. I agree with that. And we've also got AR coming in on the YouTube. 60k a week buys you a player who can play even at 32. What a condition he's in. And you and Boy Martin, you've started a conversation about the jungle in here. I was in the jungle too, Kev, for these games. Ian Corbett, do Daz still get blotto at the game and forget they have the Wayne with them? How many times, Kev, were you left outside some random boozer with a football programme, a packet of knickknacks and a tin of juice? I mean, that's what used to happen. And it was character building. I mean, there was no issue with that. Quinny, I know that you watch a lot of content, not just Celtic stuff as well, and you're a fan of the overlap, having appeared on it a couple of times, actually. Sure. You've been on it a few times now, haven't you? I love the Kasper Schmeichel stuff, and I love the fact, actually, that there's been quite a few occasions on some of these bigger, English-based shows where people have actually showed their affection for Celtic. So Ian Conroy pointed out John Aldridge. I used to love John Aldridge when he played with Liverpool. What a striker he was, and Ireland as well. And he was talking about his second team being Celtic. He loved Liverpool. It was a dream to play with Liverpool, but his second team is Celtic. I mean, Kev, you're part of my kind of generation. How great would it have been at any point to get John Aldridge in the building? Even when he went to Tranmere, the guy was scoring like 30 goals a season in his 30s.
mean, I think you've probably like myself, Paul. I think I wanted 9 or 10 of the players for the Euros '88 Republic of Ireland team.
Aye, definitely.
We wanted all of them in Celtic jerseys, and like then you hear the stories that we could have got Peter Beardsley in that as well, and Bruce and guys like that, and you went, oh, the 90s could have been so different, or that part of the 90s could have been so different. Anybody that was in that Ireland team, between Jack Charlton's Ireland team, we wanted them all to come out Celtic, because that's what we just thought. Everybody that plays for the Ireland team's a Celtic fan, so they'll come to us.
Most of them were.
Football didn't work that way. Football didn't work that way.
Big Niall Quinn. Remember we met him in Glasgow, Kev, Big Quinny?
Yes.
And he was talking about the fields Arthur Rye, and as he left the room, he's giving us the hail and all that. And I was thinking, he'd have been brilliant for Celtic, Niall Quinn. He'd have been tremendous. But Quinny, yeah, it's always good to hear them bigging up Celtic. And Keno just sits there, and obviously, right, they're all very, very respectful of what we are and what we can offer footballers, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the reputation's definitely never been bad, but it feels like this kind of new social media thing helps kind of kick it up a level. Like, I think Wayne Rooney was one of the more viral ones that happened this year, because one of the questions he got was like, oh, if you could do your career again, what would you squeeze in at the end? And he said Celtic, obviously. So I think it's in line with the Schlupp egg, and even just like Schmeichel, I suppose, as well comes into this. Schmeichel is like the archetype of this, as is Joe Hart, but they're both goalkeepers, so it's maybe not quite the same as what we used to get before with like the Bellamys and the Keanes or whatever. But there's definitely, like Brendan made the point recently, that with youth players, there has to be a space for them to get an opportunity if they are capable of earning such opportunity. But there should be a spot or two in the squad. Aaron Moy just sprang to my mind. He again kind of fills this in to maybe a lesser extent. But there should be spots in the squad for bringing in, like, see if Rooney is 34, like, and he's on a free contract, like guys like that, you should always be half open to, as long as you're not getting absolutely taken apart financially, or it's something too exorbitant. Because again, if you find the right player who is like a quality player, that the money's no the issue at that stage of the career, it's having, like, again, for any player around European football that's getting around their 30s, the send-off that we gave Joe Hart is like up there with like club legends that have like been at a team for like 10, 15 years getting a send-off. Like, that was like a full-on, cheers for the service, big man. He was only here like 2.5, 3 years, whatever it was. It wasn't anything great. And that, Daizen Maeda's been at Celtic longer than Joe Hart was now at this stage, so it was a short-term thing. So yeah, it's great to hear Celtic getting tied in with what I mentioned before. We're starting to see now, because of the way things get publicised and recorded with all European clubs, like Celtic's true kind of value, Celtic's true like profile, personality as a club or whatever is just becoming more and more unavoidable.
Yeah. It was a great word you used there, Quinny. Exorbitant. Brilliant. But see the last couple of examples, like Schmeichel and Hart in particular, I think they're great ambassadors for what you're saying, because every opportunity they talk it up, and these are guys who have won Premier League titles. It's not just guys that have been playing at a lower level. Schlupp as well. You can add to that, won a Premier League title. Brendan Rodgers coming back to Celtic and talking so glowingly, like, when you watch that the build up to the Bayern second leg on Prime Amazon, the way they were all building up Celtic and talking about that, you're right, it's unavoidable, and I think that's only going to stand us in good stead going forward. Kieran Tierney still coming back in his prime. All these things are now great examples as to why Celtics can still be a brilliant career choice, even in your prime, or not your prime, but before your career's out. What we've been lucky with is the last couple of examples have worked out brilliantly. There was a bit of, when Hart was coming and Schmeichel was coming, it wasn't all dealt with and met with great positivity from the fans at the time. But I think now they've earned that, because they've both worked out so brilliantly. The next time we're linked with these kind of players, we'll probably be a bit more open to it, and the fans might see the benefit in it. Obviously, in the past, you've had guys like Freddie Ljungberg and stuff like that, which just obviously hasn't worked out. But I think there's a difference now with the last couple. So yeah, it's been brilliant. And yeah, the more it goes, like Joe Hart, for example, every time you hear him, just glowing in his praise for his time at Celtic, and that's great to see.
Yeah,
I think there's even a difference. I mean, you mentioned Lundberg there, these guys coming up. These guys are not coming up for a final payday. I mean, if they're going for a final payday, they're going to Saudi Arabia now. They're going to Turkey. They're going elsewhere. They're not going. They're not coming here. The guys that we've mentioned that have been a success up here haven't came here for the money. They've came here to play for Celtic. They've came here to actually play for the experience. So I think there's a difference there. And whereas somebody like Robbie Keane and even Roy Keane, it was a box tick.
Yeah,
we've done it. That we've played for Celtic, and I think even Mr. Keane will admit that himself, and he did admit it. He says he shouldn't have came here because he wasn't. He was done basically when he came here, and it's a box tick exercise. But me and Roy will always have that game at Ibrox where him and Neil Lennon completely bossed it, bossed Barry back pass about the place, man. And both of them were done at that point, really done at that point. We'll always have that. We'll always have that, Roy. We'll always have that.
It was unbelievable that day. I wouldn't mind actually watching that game back in its entirety. I might do that as a watch along at some point. That was tremendous. And it was his finest moment in a Celtic jersey. Andy Lee, welcome back. You're on the YouTube. I'd have loved to see Paul McGrath in the hoops, by the way, Andy. Tom Grant, former Celtic director, told us the story of travelling down to Manchester, Kev, to sign him.
Aye.
And, you'll need to go back on the archive to hear why he didn't sign. They got him to sign something, but I think it was a napkin. At the time, as such was the Celtic board at the time, but he was wanted by both Liam Brady and Billy McNeil. He did travel up to Celtic Park, Andy, and he was shown around the place. Talks about it in his autobiography, which is the best football book you will ever read. James Kerwin, PJ, you need to invite Rooney to an Acsom event in the near future. You know, when he got the Plymouth Argyle job, James, I contacted the press office and they put me on their mailing list, and I requested an interview with Wayne Rooney. They invited me down to the introductory press conference that he gave. I couldn't get down, unfortunately, and we were in the process of organising something. Then he got emptied, so unfortunately it didn't happen. But I was on it. It's still the Rangers' end, just that they don't exist anymore reminds us the urban culture. Guys, I want to just touch on the big derby at the weekend. I want your thoughts on it, Kevin. I want you to tell me, how do you think it's going to go? I'm going to start with Kevin Graham.
I noticed the nonsense started quite early yesterday. The press in our country right away having to speak about one football club. I mean, it was the two form teams in the country yesterday playing the biggest cup tie over the weekend, and they need to talk about an irrelevant force. But that's the way that this country is. I'm looking forward to it. We didn't seem to get bitten twice, do we? When these things happen, or our manager doesn't he? There's one thing I've noticed, and this is going to, I'll pass it over, but Sunday seems a long way away for me. After we got beat 3-0 at Ibrox, right? Brendan Rodgers ditched the shirt and tie, right? He's never wore a shirt and tie since we've been beat at Ibrox.
Listen,
he now wears a black sweater.
I know, I noticed that, but I couldn't say when he did it. Is that right?
Right after Ibrox, it was a game. Don't remember the game after it when he slagged the support.
Yeah,
that's when I noticed. I went. He's wearing that black jumper. Where's his shirt and tie? And they had it on yesterday, and I noticed I think it could be a wee Stone Island number because I think he was trying to get the badge.
Oh, you got the badge in. You got the badge.
Did they get the badge in? Was it a Stone Island number? So. That's puzzled me whether he ditched the shirt and tie after that game. But I'm looking forward to. I think Brendan's got his number. I think the team will turn up. I'm not worried about it whatsoever because what will happen. And we didn't usually get bitten twice. But if we do, we move on.
I remember that game though, going into that 3-0 game, and it was such an anomaly, Acsom. It really was. I mean, Brendan spoke about it at the weekend, talking about how the fact that they stole the game from us, they played the kind of Celtic role in that game. And I love the fact that he takes that personal. You know, when we talk about ego, I think that is what I love about somebody with an ego. They take it so personally to the point where you think to yourself, they just won't, like Kev says, they won't let it happen again. Doesn't matter if he's wearing a suit or a CP jersey or whatever he was wearing.
That's just bugged me. No, bugged me, but something that I've kept on noticing. Like I'm going, when's he going to go back to the shirt and tie?
What do you prefer, Kev? Shirt and tie for the finals?
Aye, no, I like his jumper. I mean, his jumpers probably cost more than what I earn in a month.
Nice jacket as well. Nice jacket as well.
Aye, he suits it. He wears it well.
I asked Kev about the Rangers game and he talks about Stone Island jumpers. Brilliant. Asim, how are you feeling about this weekend? How do you think it's going to go?
Pretty confident for those reasons we've mentioned. And I think, see, if Rodgers wasn't confident himself and absolutely ready for this fixture, he would have batted those questions off yesterday, because it's a week before. We've just played Hibs and got ourselves into the semi-final. He would have just, he could have easily batted them off and just concentrated on yesterday's game. Yep. and let the kind of build-up begin midweek. But he went in and he answered it with that phrase of, they stole our game. So he's ready for it, and you're right, he does take things personally, and I think that's throughout his time with us. Anytime a team's beat us, or we've had a shocker against them, like look at Hibs, they beat us 2-1 a couple of weeks ago. We made sure we were going to win that game yesterday. Aberdeen, when they came to Celtic Park and ruined our 100% record at the time, 2 each, we battered them 6-0 the following couple of weeks. 3-0 game, that would have hurt. It hurt all us fans. It wasn't an acceptable performance. It wouldn't have been acceptable for him in terms of the way we went about it that day. We're going to be on it next week. We really are going to be on it. They've obviously got a midweek tie to negotiate. I think they'll get through that, but I'll take a bit out of them. And then they come to Celtic Park, and it's going to be a good atmosphere. The first time fans will be there from the away end, and I'd just love to send them home packing again with a humiliation. I'll take any victory, but I think Rodgers will have us ready for that. And if we go at them the way we can play, with a full week off now, I'm confident of a nice 3-0 victory.
Oh, that would be nice. Quinny, you've been patiently waiting to give us your view on the Glasgow Derby this weekend. It's not about this being an echo chamber, but I do feel, very much like Kev and Asim going into this game. I'm feeling confident about it.
Well, I do echo in the chamber with us all, but I would add into that like when I seen Rangers set up against Fenerbahce on Thursday, they've obviously got a very difficult game, the second leg. It could go 120 minutes or longer. They will have that kind of hangover coming into the match, of course, whereas we won't. So that doesn't necessarily enhance their situation at the moment. But they played a very different style. They played a very different tactics. They set up very, very different. They went to a 3 at the back. It's still the basic, Rangers in Europe counter-attacking crap, which has been, it's been known to punch us in the face once or twice. I don't, it's one of those ones where, like, normally these games I'm hyper confident and I'm like, yeah, we're going to rinse them like 5-0, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're on form. Our team's way better than theirs. All these things that we all know to be true. But when your opponent is coming in with a totally different game plan, I back Rodgers to be able to just exploit them because they're not that well versed in it yet. They're still kind of learning it. They've only played at a match or whatever. But it still does add a wee bit of wild card element into. I don't think we get. I don't know. I wouldn't feel as confident we get a clean sheet in this one, or it's total one-way traffic. Perhaps it might be a bit more of a. I don't know. We're at home. We are going to batter them. What am I saying? But like there's still that wee bit in me when I know there's something different coming into the equation that it might not be smooth sailing.
And the thing is, they do tend to keep going away from home in Europe and picking out good results because they're suited to that kind of style where they play the counter-attack football. But this has been the case for a couple of seasons, yet they never seem to be able to do it at Celtic Park. They've been getting away results in Europe for years now, but when they come to Celtic Park, more often than not, we find a way. I watched their game last week, so I think they'll set up similarly against us, but Fenerbahce played into their hands. They were just putting crosses into the box for Suter to head away. Obviously, we're going to play with pace and dynamism. I think before the Derby game in January, a lot of fans were very confident about that one. I wasn't so much because I think at Ibrox, one-off games, that anything can happen. I didn't expect us to be as bad as that, but at Celtic Park, yes, we need to be wary of them and guard against complacency, but you would fancy us and you'd fancy Rodgers to have us fully fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually maybe say the last twice because the League Cup final was close as well, and the game at Ibrox was just a continuation for the League Cup final because I reckon they reckon they had a point to prove. They felt a sense of injustice going into that game, a game at Ibrox in the new year, and I think we feel the sense of injustice this time going into this game. And I tell you one thing, I would be more worried with them coming into this game with Belgian Waffle in charge, rather than the Fleeto of the Neds.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we won't spend too much time on it, Kev, but there's absolutely no doubt he's a better coach than the one they've got now. I've got no doubt whatsoever on that.
Also as well, when you talk about their away form in Europe, they bet Malmo, who finished 31st in the Europa League. They bet Nice, who finished 35th, and they bet Fenerbahce, who finished 24th in the Europa League. And I'm willing to back myself that Celtic are far better than any of the three teams. So that's the
way that you've deduced
that's the way that I've framed it. No, that's the way I've framed it.
Well, Kev, it's been an absolute pleasure seeing you returning back to your roots there at Celtic Park back in the 1990s. It's also been great to welcome back Acsom Rabbani after a short break on A Celtic State of Mind. And as always, Quinny coming in to entertain the 1,600 who are still watching this show live. So thank you, every single one of you. If you are watching it on the YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We are heading towards 35,000 subs on the YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. And thank you to Kev, Acsom and Quinny for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.